Have you ever been on a hike and you feel like you finally made it to the top? You crest what you believe is a final ridge. The summit should be just right there in front of you, only to discover, oh no, this was a false summit. We're not there yet. We've still got a ways to go. I'm guessing that some of you feel that way when you listen to me preach. Now, there's a sense of a false summit as we continue our study of Revelation. It seems like the sixth seal was it, the final cosmic destruction we've been waiting for. Now, the response of the people at the end of chapter 6 certainly portends as much. For the great day of their wrath has come. And surely this is it, isn't it? And yet we still have 7 trumpets and 7 bowls to go. This isn't the summit. The vision continues. It's an important thing to remember how visions and dreams often function in Scripture. When Joseph had his dreams in Genesis 37, there were 2 different dreams with the same meaning. The first was about sheaves of grain. The second included the sun and moon and 11 stars. But the reality they pointed to was the same. The Pharaoh had 2 dreams, revolving around heads of grain and cows. But again, the meaning was the same. The book of Daniel contains several visions. Now, the first in chapter 7 was about 4 beasts. In his second vision, in chapter 8, he has a vision of a ram and a goat, who are 2 kingdoms. Now, we don't read these as if the ram and the goat will come after the 4 beasts of chapter 7. Rather, it's a clarification, or even further, a definition of the beast, which in a sense is the same. You don't have to agree with me on this, and you probably don't. But what I'm suggesting here is maybe the seals, trumpets, and bowls don't need to be understood as following a linear timeline. The devastation of the seals followed temporally by the trumpets, then the bowls. That certainly would make sense. It would make it easier to make sense of something like the sun being turned black like sackcloth, and the stars falling from the sky in the 6th seal, and then the contents of the 4th trumpet in Revelation 8 suggesting a third of the sun, moon, and stars, which, apparently are back in the sky, are turned dark. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm merely suggesting that maybe Revelation 6:16 really means what it says. For the great day of their wrath has come. And all the day of the Lord imagery suggested in the opening of the 6th seal can be explained by the fact that, well, it is the day of the Lord. Like Joseph or Pharaoh or Daniel, who all experienced subsequent clarifying visions, what John sees is the same event from a different but intensifying perspective. Obviously, what I'm offering you is a look at a text that you're probably familiar with from a different perspective. Regardless of how we look at it, it's the question at the end of verse 17 that drives the passage forward. And who can withstand it? In other words, when the day of the Lord comes, who can stand? As the angelic question ushered us into a new aspect of the vision in chapter 5, asking who is worthy to break the seal, those cowering at the impending wrath of the Lamb, they ask the question, who can stand? Now, before we answer, I hope it's not lost on you that we've paused in the action. We covered 6 seals, and now before the 7th can be ripped open, there's a pause. I'll point it out again when we get there, but both bowls and trumpets feature a similar interlude: 6 trumpets, 6 bowls, then a pause. After this, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds of the earth, to prevent any wind from blowing on the land or on the sea or on any tree. One of the most important questions we can ask in understanding Revelation is not what happens next, but what does John see next? For a discussion on what John sees next, you'll have to tune in next week. I'll see you then.